Good afternoon and welcome to the FX Daily Wrap-Up with ForexAnalytix. And we've seen quite the 24-hour run where we saw the euro really take off, and we'll go on and focus that on the 2-hour chart. We talked about this yesterday. We were talking about potentially this market could move higher. Obviously, the labeling of China as a currency manipulator certainly had its impact. And then we've seen it come off as China's trying to take steps to a certain extent, rein in the yuan. So we've kind of seen some back and forth in here. We do have, if you look here, just a little minor little hammer, just a little one. But we had our buy chart support today at 1185 or 1186. Then we took a dip, not that far off. I myself had been long here, and I just got stopped out, but I came in and took advantage when we ran up here to just grab a little bit of a shorts to catch some of this on the way down, because I figured, okay, this is the same area where I was just trying to jump out, which was right at 1205, right before we took a turn for the lower. And so I thought that's where we're going to run out of gas. And sure enough, we topped out right around, well, look, 1206, 1205.9, 1206. And then we paired off, so it kind of allowed me to even up a little bit from this morning. But as I said, with the moves that we've had, it's been quite a big move, and it doesn't hurt to kind of sit back and as we said, observe. You don't have to rush into anything. Potentially one of the things that we talked about, I'm not going to get into too much. If you are with us on the European crossover webinar, you're able to see that live, or either about an hour and a half. It's recorded and made available an hour and a half before the New York session. But one of the things we talked about was that I thought that the euro and a lot of all the news that came about, we really could have pushed somewhat closer to 1285. Now, we did have a 2-hour level right there. We were talking about it in Asia, and I'll bring that up here. And you can see it here at 1247. But if the market really wanted to go, kind of a little bit of wacko here, I think we should have at least pushed to 1287, 1285, at least maybe even higher. We did start to rotate, not really even rotate. We just kind of just exhausted, and we just sat there just dripping and dripping and dripping a little bit low. And then we hit a little bit of a gully here. And then, of course, this morning with the dollar moving a little bit higher, it allowed the euro. And I guess I didn't even pay attention to my own stuff here, which is right here, this 1165. I kept my stop real tight in case it was going to go in and start to roll over so easily, but probably should have given it an opportunity to defend, because we had taken out this trend line by mistake on my part. I just didn't want this year to turn around and just roll right on over. But look, right there was at 1165. As long as it didn't get below that, probably should have exercised a little bit more patience, but I was able to get a little bit of it back here. But as we failed right at that 1205 and came back down and a little bit lower. But I think it looks like it wants to move higher, and we talked about this in the European crossover. The way this would look over here would be that, technically speaking, you just want to buy the dips. When we came back down here and the dollar was still kind of holding up, and we found support at that 97.21. We were talking about 43 previously before all this happened, but it held in that area, and we made a push here. I still think the dollar may be a weakening overall for the most part, but the one pair that we did see quite a bit of action, and Blake talked about that too, was in the dollar yen. Caught off a little bit of a scalp in the Asian session. Once again, if you're with us in the chat room in ForexAnalytix, that we figured that the Asian session would be active. I was looking mainly at the euro, but I was able to jump in and grab a little bit here on the dollar yen, and we were looking, excuse me, at this 23%, 642, and the market made a pretty good little run here. It doesn't appear as easily. I guess it's right on this one. That you can see it, but if you look at it on a 15-minute chart, you can see what really jumped up there, and then it ran out of gas right before then, and then we slowed down and started pulling back. And I said, hey, just beware of that 617. We did find support at 608, and then from there we started moving higher, and then boy, did we move higher. I was asleep when we made this move. And got back just past the 38%. You can see where they ran out of gas right here. These touches coming across here at 708, 709, and then boy, did we come right back off again. Once again, a little bit of China trying to work, trying to keep the yuan in check. So this is the one pair that's really, we've seen some nice trading activity. The euro's trying to push back up, and the Canadian dollar, after making a run here you can see, I'm just going to pull this up here. Right up here, made this run to the 32.71, and then we backed off about 20 pips or so, and we're trying to reassert itself. I think really, like I said, it doesn't hurt to see what's happening over the next couple of days to see how this dollar wants to go. I still think it's still going to work a little bit lower, which is going to really open the door for the euro to potentially move higher from here. We shall see. We've had the first run up, so I guess that would make sense. You get that first run up, although I thought it could have been much higher potentially went after the news. Now, this earlier yesterday, remember, we were cautioning not to come in. I thought the market could push higher the way it was acting. But I thought that after that kind of news, we should have probably pushed up, well, probably closer to 13. Now, that would have been something, but we didn't. But this also, when you come back in here, as long as it defends in here and we get a close above 12.10, really opens the door for us now to try and make that move much higher. We'll see. But certainly, I think the dollar is vulnerable for that. Cable continues to remain weak. Not really a whole lot here, just more of the same old thing, no changes. Although in the S&Ps, we saw a very nice rebound off of this. We'll go and quickly take a look here with the Aussie dollar. And this pair continues to stay relatively weak. We gave it a little bit of space on the bias chart that it could move a little bit higher here, but it somewhat has waned here and just kind of rolling back. With the RBNZs tonight, they're expected to go in and cut rates, and I think that's probably basically almost like a sympathy factor to a certain extent. I know there's been some talk about, I would not be surprised to see that, and I kind of at least I agree with that person's thought who's talking to Dale, or Dale's upcoming guest, which is potentially a rate cut intra-meeting. And I think that's a very good possibility. I don't think the Fed wants to do it right now and act like as if they're going with whatever the administration says, but I wouldn't be surprised within the next 3 weeks we may see an intra-meeting cut, as long as the equities stay under pressure. And it's not just equities under pressure. It shouldn't be decided on that. But just a thought that we're losing some confidence in the economy. We could start to slide. So almost like a preventive type cut, even though it'd be intermediate and after the first one already. We're going to move into the cross rates. And you can certainly see here where the Euro Kiwi had pulled back, but we're kind of reasserting ourselves there. Same thing with the Euro Australia. So you're seeing this, one of the good things about cross rates, even if you don't trade them, if you're just, let's say you're just trading the Euro, you want to see, are we seeing the same, you're going to call it complementary strength across the board? That gives you a little bit more confidence in what you're looking at then. Or if you see, wait a minute, the Euro's fallen, but the Euro Aussie's holding its own, although the Aussie has its own troubles. But you compare to that also, as well as to the the Euro Yen, say, what, we're kind of making a move. I'm seeing some strength coming across the board. Maybe this thing has some legs to it, and then potentially, like I said, we end up moving higher here in the Euro. But as I said, we're seeing this coming across the board with the Euro, and certainly we've seen a pretty good move back up in here with the gold market, which has launched higher as we continue to see negative yields. It certainly is one thing that's allowed the gold to move higher. Whether or not it moves on the dollar or not, and it has been impacted. But the real story with that is actually going to be the potential for rates to go even lower. And looking here in the guppy, still, sagging here near the lows. Yesterday I focused a lot, and we went a little bit over than we usually do, because my thought was, like I said, with not only what was happening with the yen, with the Euro, but I thought it was a new dynamic that was taking place. And to a certain extent, there has been now with even China being labeled a currency manipulator, and potentially the Fed may take additional action. So once again, you still have the opportunity. I mean, same thing here with the Euro, the Euro dollar itself, to still come in at a pretty decent level. As I said, technically, the market's now on a buy mode, so we want to go on and be buying the dips as we go on and jump back into that quickly. So here we're looking on this 2-hour chart, and you can see they broke past this trend line. They've come back. The only thing that had me a little bit worried then is that we had our bias chart resistance. I supported 1185, but should have still kept this in place for the 65 to say, look, if it's all over, if we close below this, and actually have been a little bit lower, it would have been like 1160. But you can see we're starting to, pair back or start to even ourselves back up. If we can get above this area, which is the 1205, and we're really 1210 would go on and launch us. I mean, it opens the door for, people going to step in and say, yeah, that is a buying opportunity, and potentially then we can go higher, much higher, over the course of several days. Like I said, I think the dollar will be able to weaken. But we broke past this, we tested it, we closed just below it, but we've defended, and here we are reasserting ourselves. And if really this 05, and if you can get past this 1210 on a 2-hour close, it looks good for us to move higher, and then potentially we'll visit that 1285 and even higher if we do see the dollar going in and pair back. Now, when we talk about even higher, where are some of the levels we're looking at? Well, to me, what I'm looking at, if we go and do that, and you can see here we've got medium-legged doji here. Now, this one is a medium or almost like a long-legged doji, which generally means is that although the trend we haven't established much of a trend, but generally means that when you close here, the bulls don't have control, the bears don't have control. But what's the path that we've been going? Well, it's been up, so generally you see a pause. Maybe we have to test a little bit lower. But the day's still young, and this bar still has 20 minutes before it closes. So let's see how we fare there. But where can we go to if we assert ourselves to the upside? I'd be looking at this 1326. You can see all this fairly key level here, and that confluences with 1330, which is a 38% of this move from 1029 all the way up here to 1816. So it would be a good area for them to initially shoot to. As long as we can defend this, we shall see. As mentioned, Canadian dollar pushing up here against that 32.71. That'll be interesting to see if we can get past this area. Like I said, with the dollar being weaker, may have a little bit of a tough time. Obviously, it has a lot to do with how the Canadian economy may be faring. But you can see here that 32.71, fairly key level here. It'll be interesting to see if the market can get, going and get past this area. But an important level there, 32.71 here. Once again, I said I think one of the key markets to keep your eyes focused on. Said that a couple of weeks ago, and we ended up falling quite a bit, and certainly I wish I would have been able to grab a lot of this. I mean, the crazy thing was I was short actually at 928 when I put on the position, and I was looking for, me and Dale talked about it, I was looking for a move to that area, and I thought we could fall. I just didn't think, I thought it was going to be a small, slight rotation. I didn't think it was going to be like lose the whole thing in two trading days, essentially. But this is going to be the one market that let it quell down a little bit. But I think we're going to see some good two-way action coming back into the dollar yen. A good market to go in and trade, no doubt about that. So let's see. We already had a pretty good move off of these lows, and the market's kind of sitting here. We're relatively quiet. The euro was even trading a little bit quiet here. We're trying to see a little bit upside move. As I said, the market, I think, wants to digest and see what's made up of it over the next couple of days. Yes, today being the first day, and then tomorrow. Yesterday was part of it, but I mean, I think once we get past that, then the market's kind of see, okay, this is where we're going to go. I think the dollar will go in and start to pair back. Lastly, we'll go and take a look at the peso. As we talked about this, we closed above that pivot, that 1923.6 that we've outlined time and time again. We've made this run. We did go in and back off a little bit. I caught a little bit on the short side yesterday as I thought the S&Ps would find support at 28.17 on my secondary support, and we did. But I was really rather disappointed that we didn't fall back further. But then, of course, with China as a currency manipulator, we made that run up here. We've paired back, but we haven't paired back a whole lot. So certainly the door's open potentially for this thing to move even much higher on that. But that's what we have for the daily wrap-up. Once again, consider a 10-day subscription with ForexAnalytix. You'll have an option to go on and look at everything, including macro, basic technical, harmonics, Elliott wave, as well as the chat room, and also our Data Plus, where you're getting not only live news, but you actually get the data coming out right when the news comes out. So consider a 10-day subscription with ForexAnalytix to test it out for $1. And that's all we have for here. And thanks for joining us here on the Daily Wrap Up.